And now I would like to invite Kip Cooper up to the stage. I'm so happy to see so many of your faces. When he found out that we were going to host a board of mayors and that we were passionate about Women's Council of Realtors, he said, no, we're going to give them to that room for free. We're going to help them promote this event and stand behind what our members are passionate about. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelsey, and welcome everyone. Welcome to KCRAR, your association. So it's so nice. I really am so excited that we're able to have Women's Council of Realtors here and host this event. You know, advocacy is a big part of what the association does. So for any of you that are not already involved in our advocacy committee, the committee signups are available. So I encourage you all to participate and do that. Welcome. We have some big issues ahead of us. One of the top issues among citizens right now, 1 in 5 are displeased with housing policies and the lack of affordable housing in their communities. So this is a real hot button issue. It's always been an important issue for all of you and all of us, but it's going to be so nice to hear from some of the mayors on how they're tackling these challenges and how hopefully we can help in the future to help craft ordinances and code and be a resource on the research side of things to all of them. So thank you and welcome.
Now, at this time, I would like to introduce our 4 mayors that we're going to have. I'm going to start with Mayor Rory Rowland of Independence. If you'll join us up on the stage. Mayor Rory Rowland was elected mayor of Independence in April of 2022 after serving in the Missouri House of Representatives for District 29 from 2015 to 2022. A lifelong public servant inspired by President Harry S. Truman, Mayor Rowland brings decades of leadership experience, including his tenure as president of 2 Kansas City area credit unions and founder of Rowland Consulting. He holds an MBA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and is deeply involved in his community. He has served on his church's finance committee for over 2 decades and lives in Independence for nearly 40 years with his wife, Teddy, and they have raised 4 children. Welcome. Thank you. We also have with us today Mayor Kathy Rose of Riverside. Kathy has served as the mayor of Riverside, Missouri since 2006, leading the city through a period of dynamic growth and revitalization. Under her leadership, Riverside has embraced its motto of upstream from ordinary, transforming into a vibrant and forward-thinking community. Mayor Rose is actively engaged in regional and statewide municipal affairs, serving as vice president of the Missouri Municipal League and earning recognition as a certified municipal official. Her dedication to public service and civic engagement continues to shape Riverside's future and strengthen its role in the greater Kansas City area. Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Mayor Eric Mikkelson of Prairie Village. Eric has served as mayor of Prairie Village since 2019, following 4 years on the city council, and has dedicated his career to public service and civic leadership across the Kansas City region. His extensive involvement includes leadership roles with Mid-America Regional Council, United Community Services of Johnson County, Climate Action KC, and the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. He has served as chair of the Johnson and Wyandotte County Mayor's Council and as the Johnson County Charter Commissioner. A practicing attorney for over 30 years, Eric is an adjunct professor at KU Law School and UMKC Business School and has held key positions from Kansas City Metropolitan Bar Association, and he's a graduate of Stanford University and University of Kansas Law, a proud father of 3, and has been married to his wife, Margot, for 25 years. Thank you, Mayor Mike. And last but not least, we have Mayor Carolyn Caiharr from Edwardsville. Carolyn has served as the City of Edwardsville as mayor since 2022. As a city council member the 4 years prior, she serves on the board of directors of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council. Her focus as an elected official has been advocating for her constituents, leading the Edwardsville Historical Society, coordinating grocery distributions, and planning a new municipal complex that will include a fire department renovation and, in addition, a new city hall, police department, court, and a public library. Carolyn and her husband, Joe, love spending time with their sons and being involved in their church community. In addition to her public service as an elected official, Carolyn has been a realtor since 2003 and is licensed in Kansas and Missouri. She has loved making lifelong relationships while assisting and advising her clients by providing consistent communication, skilled negotiation, and seasoned advice. Whether they are just starting their journey or purchasing their first home, selling the home they have loved dearly for years, or any step in between, she loves helping them along the way. Thank you. We are going to begin with the Mayor of Independence.
Well, thank you all. Obviously, this is a slide of Independence, Missouri. We're connecting our storied past with a bright and forward-looking future. If I can just tell you a little bit about myself to give you a sense of it. When I was running for mayor, Independence has a rich history. And Paul is from Independence, and he knows Independence, and Dan is from Independence. You know, Independence, a deep history, and people have been there for generations. And so I moved there with my wife in 81 because I loved Harry Truman, and I just wanted to know more about this man and to know more about him. And he is a man of grit, and he is the last president, or every president since him has been president with a college degree. He became president without a college degree. He was incredibly self-educated, probably one of the best read presidents we have had since then. He read over 1,200 books that they list in the library, and that really drove his education and his knowledge. And it helped him truly drive him to be, in my opinion, a great president. And he was so well read. And so when I was walking door to door, they go, "Are you from Independence?" And I had to come up with a pretty good line for that. And I said, "No, Independence didn't choose me. I chose Independence, and I hope you chose me for your mayor." So that was the line. And so fortunately, got fortunate enough to become mayor. And it's just a great city with great history. We're the county seat for Jackson County. We've got a great square. Last year, we had a great movie from Hallmark, yes, featuring the Kansas City Chiefs, which was remarkable. I was in there for a flicker of a second. You can't tell who I was, so I was in the background. And it was just great to see the movie made. So we've just got a tremendous number of things that are very, very positive happening in Independence, and I'm delighted to be here and to be able to talk about that. So obviously here is our square. This is a picture of the courthouse. Wild About Harry, I point that out there because that's the scene I was in the movie. So if you want to look really, really hard, I'm in the background shopping very inconspicuously. I love Clinton's right here because Clinton's is the store that Harry Truman, when he was a child, worked at. He was 11 years old when he worked at that store, and he did get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and open the store. And Mr. Clinton lived up above where you can see the windows there. And Harry Truman learned about the habits of some of the finer constituents of Independence. You know, a lot of people said they wouldn't drink alcohol, but he would actually serve alcohol to adults who would leave a dime on the counter, and he'd serve them a shot, and away they would go. So he learned about human nature there, but his father didn't let him keep that job very long. So that's the courthouse right there. And right here, some of the things that are happening on the left here, you've got to forgive me here. That's AI generated. I just wanted to see if I could get an AI generated picture of it with the courthouse and Harry Truman. But one of the things that's really, really exciting is the behavioral health hospital is being put into Independence. It's a $60 million investment. There's going to be over 200 jobs and 120 beds. I asked them if they could make sure that at least one bed is available for a mayor in need. Would you agree with me on that? You may need one at a time. There's times when a mayor needs a mental health break. They did assure me if I wrote the letter of support, they would in fact let me do that. The next one is one of the biggest improvements or the biggest opportunities for Independence is the Little Blue Parkway development with North Point. This will be a $1 billion investment over the next 20 years. It will create about 5,000 new jobs, and it will truly be a transformative event in Independence. And we are just so delighted to do this. I cannot take credit for the success of this program. Don't blame me for the success of this program. Actually, Mayor Eileen Ware did a lot of work to get this here, and they really teed it up. And the very first meeting that I had as mayor, this was on the agenda, and all I had to do was say yes. So that's a pretty easy thing. Don't you wish you had that kind of a project as your first project to vote on? You go, wow, that's an easy process to be mayor. I didn't know it's that easy. So that is it. Here's what it'll look like there. And the picture I just showed you here is kind of what the parkway is there, but this is what it's going to look like as you go along the parkway. To give you a sense of it, in the lower corner where you've got the Little Blue Parkway and you've got the three little buildings together, that'll probably be that one building, and I wish I had a pointer for it so I could do it. But right here, that'll be probably 3 football fields, about 60,000 feet of space. So it's going to be truly remarkable. And we've been talking to some really, truly incredible companies. The challenge that we have with developing it is we have our own power company, IPL, and is just these companies, particularly data centers, want just a huge amount of data. They predict with AI, the United States is going to need 19 new power plants for nuclear power plants to meet the need of AI going forward, which is just astonishing. I never thought Microsoft would buy its own nuclear power plant, but it's in the plans to do that. So it's remarkable. And so that's one of the challenges that we have is we've got these future, but how do we get the power to it is the challenge. Centerpoint Hospital is building a new ER renovation center. It's about $50 million investment. It's an absolutely terrific center. This is actually Centerpoint Hospital. The ER center's on 23rd Street. It's being developed right now. So I don't have any really cool pictures there, so I put this one in here. So please grant me some license here. Another program we have, which has been really, really helpful, and it's been put together by Councilmember Panelists, and it's called the Independence Together program. And we've removed about 1 million pounds of trash that comes along the roadside. And what this program does is we've got a group in Independence called CSL and the Community Service League. And what they do is they help people who are homeless or in need of services. And they're absolutely a remarkable organization. They're terrific. And what we did is we partnered with them and the city to help people who are homeless and give them jobs. Because the challenge with people when they're homeless is a lot of people won't hire them because they are homeless, and they don't, sometimes they don't have the clothes to dress appropriately and things like that. So this way they can get a job. They get paid $15 an hour. They get paid right at the end of the day, and it allows them to work. And so you can see me in the background with the white hat on, out there picking trash. I've had some people say, I'm not going to go out there and pick up trash. And I go, I will. It's out there, pick it up. So it's been an incredibly successful program. And one of the things I think is really positive for our city is to say, let's clean it up and make it look better. And those people that live in Independence, do you think it's made a positive impact? So, yep. So it's very, very important. We passed a fire sales tax here recently with the plan to build fire stations. And what the council just did here a few months ago was actually say, hey, can we bond this and actually take the money that we have from the sales tax and actually build those fire stations now? Because the cost of, as you know, the cost as realtors, the cost of production, the cost of building things just goes up and up and up. So we said, why not bond it now, take that money, bond it, and then build those fire stations now to save money. So that's do you have a question or just a thumbs up on that? Yep. And so it's just a very, very good way to go about it. Here's the Truman Home, the Truman Library. Here's a statue of Harry Truman. This was my very first experience of independence when I was 14 years old. Harry Truman had passed away, and he actually laid in state right inside the library there. He didn't go back to Washington, D.C. for all the pomp and circumstance. He stayed right here in Independence because he always thought Independence was the center of the universe. So that's where I learned all the stories, and that day that I was in that line learning about Harry Truman basically changed my entire life, not knowing at the time because I was so enamored with the stories, learned more about him in high school, and then when it became an opportunity to make a choice about where my wife and I would live, we chose Independence, and who knew that I would in fact then be mayor. So that's the follow-up. This year is pretty exciting. The first time in the city's history, we've passed a $55 million GEO bond to fix the streets, the roads, the sidewalks, and the bridges. And we've had some bridges that are closed, as you well know, if you live in Independence. And so this is truly exciting for us to do this. We just, this last council meeting, passed a $33 million segment of that to put it out on the market to get that sold. So if you want to invest in Independence, those bonds will be out there in the near future, and it's an opportunity for us to refresh the city, and it truly needed that. There's no question about it. And here's another program that's really great for Independence is the ARCH program. And here's the issue with homelessness is a lot of times we would just send our public safety officers out there, the police officers and the firefighters. And that's really frightening for folks, okay? And a lot of times homelessness occurs because of mental health issues. So on behalf of the fire department, they approached the city council and they said, can we do a program called the ARCH program? Kind of, give that step between. And what we have here is members of the ARCH staff. And what they do is they take this van and when we have reports of people who are homeless, go out, work with them, and not come up with guns and shields and cameras and, a police car, but something that's not so frightening. And can we help you? And do you need services? And where can you go from here? So that's just so important for our city. This is something I'm extraordinarily excited about. The moment I heard about this, I said, whoa, howdy. And some people said it's going to be a truck stop. It is not a truck stop. How many people have been to Buc-ee's? How many people have been to Buc-ee's? How many people have spent $100 at Buc-ee's every time you go? Yes, absolutely. I have too. I love the idea of having a Wally's there. And so we're just in the process. It'll be in the Planning Commission on next Tuesday, right? And Dan's actually a member of that committee. And so they'll be deciding on, do they give approval for that? It'll be in the old Kmart site there at Nolan Road and I-70. I'm incredibly excited about this, but for the metro area, this is what's going to be cool. I believe we're going to be the only metro area in the United States that has both a Buc-ee's and a Wally's. So I would like to have a competition with Kansas City, Kansas, and say, can we get more people from all over the country to come here to see, let's taste some Buc-ee's and some Wally's jerky and see how you do that. So there you go. But I'm really, really excited about Wally's moving forward. But we got some steps, as mayors, there's always the details, right? Always the details. So, yes. I think they are going to have solar panels on the top. I can't absolutely.
Ask you a question you can't answer.
Right. Well, you ask me another one. I can't answer that either. So. So it's really easy being a mayor, right? It's really, but you guys could probably answer questions. I can't. But I think they are, but I can't say that for sure. And I have learned from this business and being beat up enough with it. If you answer a question, you're wrong. The beating is worse is that not right? The beating is worse answering the question when you're wrong than saying, I don't know. You're going to get beat up both ways. But if you ever run for elected office in the future, take that advice. Say, I don't know if you don't know. So anyway, that's Wally's right there. Well, and I believe they are going to put them on there. I don't know if the angle right there is, if someone would do me a favor, if you would put AI to work, I would guarantee, but I believe they're going to have solar panels on top of that. I believe they are, but I could be wrong. But truly, I've been married 44 years and mayors for 3.5. Trust me, there's lots of people who can point out I've been wrong. All right, with that being said, how do we proceed going forward? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor Kathy Rose from Riverside, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Rose, and it's an honor to be here with you all. I have Riverside. I've been the mayor for Riverside for 20 years, and it's something I never aspired to do. I had a 25-year job. I was very successful at my job, and my mother had been the mayor before me for 16 years. My mother had an illness. She could not run anymore. And I went home to my husband because I knew what was going to happen with the person that was going to fill her shoes. And I said to my husband, I'm going to quit my job. I'm running for mayor and I'm going to win. And here I am 20 years later.
You go, girl.
And believe me, I've had 10 elections because I have them every 2 years. So, and I've been opposed 7 or 8 of the elections. So yeah, it's not been easy, but it's been so rewarding. And it's something, I'll tell you what I found about myself more than anything is I truly have a servant's heart. I have really learned to be somebody that I never thought I could be. And I'm really, really proud of that. So I'm going to tell you the story of Riverside, and I'm going to go through this. I've got quite a few slides, and I'm going to go through it pretty quick. But our tagline is upstream from ordinary.
Try it again.
Okay, so I'm going to just tell you a real quick story of Riverside. Riverside will turn 75 years old next year in 2026, along with our country being 250 years old. So we're actually 75 years young. But saying that, we were established as a hardworking blue collar community. I mean, that there is nothing else I can say about it, but the people that wanted to be there, they did not want to be part of Kansas City. And they said, let's do this and let's be our own community. And that's how that all worked. So we have truly chosen Riverside as a destination and an inflection point. And I have to read this because it's such a true thing. A moment of radical change, a turning point where the curve of a story, a graph, or even life itself shifts direction. In math, it's where a function changes its curvature, flipping from concave to convex or vice versa. In the bigger picture, it's the spark that signals something big is about to happen. The moment, the flood of 93. The Riverside, we were devastated. Our spark, the Argosy. My mother negotiated the best gaming contract in the state of Missouri with her 11th grade education, and I am so proud of what she accomplished. But it was heart and it was passion that drove that. The radical change. This is what it looked like, and that's what it looks like today. This is North Point that he talked about. This is their first development. Riverside actually gave Nathaniel Hagedorn at North Point his first shot at being able to do something grand, and he has done some glorious things. So spread across the city, we've had in the last 6-7 years, we have had a lot of things happening. The new Red X, it was a 15-year project that I've been dealing with. 15 years. He built the new store, and fun fact, he tripled his business when he opened the door of the new store. They got a great wine department, just so you know. Another important, and Rory and I worked on these together. Mid-Continent Public Library, he wanted a new library for Independence. I had a library in Riverside. It was a absolute terrible building. It was not well attended, and Mid-Continent Public Library, 12 years it took me to get this project. In fact, I ended up giving the library, the city did, $2 million to put towards this project so that we could have this new facility. And again, the day they opened the door, they have 40% more people walk in than they ever did in the old building. Parks and trails, we have invested $10 million, modernized our parks and our trails. We have complete streets, walkability, sustainability, and people-centered planning. It is one of the highlights of people living in Riverside. Talking about real estate, look at here. 2010, our population was 2,900. Again, we are only 6 square miles. We are now at currently 4,400 population with, new building coming online every single day. Montebello, a beautiful neighborhood, is just, they're exploding. This is another one. Palisades is across from Red X, and it has the view of the Kansas City skyline like no other area. It is absolutely beautiful. And I'm telling you, my mother has passed, but she is smiling every day to know that we would have a $2 million home in the city of Riverside.
Yeah.
This is another interesting thing. We've had 3 subdivisions now, but before subdivisions, we just had areas that we had our houses set on big lots. Like I live on a lot of an acre and 3/4. And, I love it. I love the space. I'm surrounded by woods. But now people that have spaces next to them, they sold it. And I've had a lot of infill happen. And I love that what's happened. And these infill homes that house right there sits across the street from a house that at one time you could have bought it for $100,000, that now with the economy is worth about $200,000. thousand. So people don't care where they, what they live next to. It's well maintained, but it's just what's happened. Here's another, this is our newest apartment kind of project was townhomes. This was really funny. Those rents are around $2,000 a month. They're 3-bedroom units. And it was funny when they were built, the developer came to me and said, oh, we're going to have younger, more single people in here. And that is not the truth. They are absolutely filled with families in those units. Horizons Industrial, again, Rory talked about it. We have 4 million square feet and 3,500 employees down there. We have state and local partnerships that embodies $100 million of public investment. We have 1.2 billion in private investment.
Is it the phone?
I think it.
Yes.
So this is what's really exciting about Horizons. When we were doing the development of the industrial down there, I did not want to be another Front Street. If you're familiar with Front Street in Kansas City, I didn't want to be that off of 635. So I drew an imaginary line and I said, there will not be another industrial building past this line. And lo and behold, I am patient but prudent, and I landed the Kansas City Current as a, yes. And there we are with the groundbreaking of that. And I'm telling you what, our partnership with the Longs has been unbelievable. They are fabulous people, and exciting things. So it's a 50-acre youth sports and mixed use development with 1.5 million annual visitors. And the Hilton Garden Inn right next to it, it will be open in April of 2026. And if you haven't heard, we will be a base camp for a team for World Cup. Another 6 years of my life right there at Live Nation. I want you to know I was getting ready to get on a plane, the March 15th, whatever it was, to go to LA to sign my final documents, and they shut the airport down that day for COVID. And fortunately, they stayed with me, and we're going to have the opening April of 2026. 35 to 40 major acts, almost 16,000 seats. Woo! What's next in Riverside? The horizon isn't just about where the sky meets the earth. It's where potential meets possibility. It's a quiet promise that there's always more ahead, waiting to be discovered if you're bold enough to chase it. And that is exactly what it takes. I have absolutely been at the table with this. And so now we have a few other opportunities. The city has been, we've been lucky enough to purchase some really blighted properties. All the blues city owns. We're going to be tearing a lot of stuff down and doing some other developments. And we just got a lot of great things going on right there. We got our new library, the Quick Trip, the Corner Cafe. If you haven't been at the Corner Cafe, it's a fabulous place to go. West Horizons, the amphitheater, the 25 acres, the blue right there in front of the amphitheater, the city owns. I just was in a very detailed meeting yesterday of what that could look like. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be an entertainment venue right there. And this is, we had a generator kind of do us a concept of what it could look like. You know, we've included all components in it, but we want it to have a vibe and a feel, kind of like a Branson Landing, or, you know, so that there's a social area in the middle. So that's exactly what we're going for there. South Horizons, we own 60 acres on the south side of that as well, that we are under discussions with development. We are probably going to have our first new Class A apartments right there on that right side of that. And the traffic counts on 635, 56,000 cars a day. And actually, I think that's low. I think it's more like 65. 9 highway, 18,000. And again, the amenities that we're going to have. And Riverside is right there in the center with access to 1 million people. I call us the 15-minute from anywhere city because of our access. Airport, downtown, Legends. And we have really truly described ourselves as Destination Riverside. And I'll hand that over.
Well done. Great job.
Crossing the state line into Kansas. Any Prairie Village residents in the audience? Good to know. Thank you. I'm Eric Mikkelson. I'm Mayor of Prairie Village, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you to the Women's Council of Realtors for inviting me, having us. I want to start out just by thanking for the words of inspiration. And, speaking of courage, I want to thank my fellow mayors up here for your courage in public service. Wow, talk about inspirations, some of those things happening in your cities. Also, the women business leaders in the audience for your courage. You make us a better region, and I appreciate that. So these are kind of flukish, but I want to mention a couple of recent extraordinary awards Prairie Village has gotten. This year, we were named on the top 10 list of the most popular areas in the country, which might be sort of an outlier if the year before Zillow hadn't ranked us the #1 most popular city in America. So pretty heady stuff for Prairie Village. I don't put a ton of stock in that. The first one was Redfin, the second one was Zillow, but enough said with this crowd. But there's something going on there, right? And fact check, Mission Hills Councilman Davidson is here. On the Redfin rating, it included part of Mission Hills as well. Our great neighbor. So I won't tell you too much about me because the introduction was too generous and too long. But this is my family, very proud, and we're in Meadowbrook Park. Have any of you been to beautiful Meadowbrook Park in Prairie Village, Kansas? Very proud of that. Lancer Day Parade, one of our greatest traditions. We raised 3 children in Prairie Village, and it's a very special place for families. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the highlights in my mind of Prairie Village, and then some of the things coming up. And I know the CEO mentioned, issues like housing affordability, tear down rebuilds. We've seen a little bit of that in Prairie Village, and some discussion. We're just a sleepy little city that's never in the news, never in the news, right? You might not even heard of us, but there we are. So I'm happy to even take questions on those topics as well. So we've long been regarded one of the safest cities in Kansas. We took a close look at our police salaries, though, a couple years ago and found that we'd fallen behind the curve. And this was during a period of difficult recruitment for police and law enforcement generally across the country. And we were certainly feeling that in Johnson County and in our city. So we took it upon ourselves to test the market and significantly raised our salaries. And I'm happy to report that today we are fully staffed in Prairie Village for the first time in many years. And we're not losing officers. We're hiring from other locations. The retention is quite good as well. That matters quite a bit. We're also investing in technology. Our city council just approved. We've had a drone that can be operated by a police officer at the scene to assist with law enforcement. We just approved a drone as a first responder program. This is pretty cool if you haven't seen this yet, but it actually has a nest at City Hall, and it can take off and be the first eyes on a scene, often beating the officers to it, and obviously having a bird's eye view to see perpetrators running from a scene, for example. And a couple other cities have already implemented it with great success out in the Nexus. So we're going to be doing that in Prairie Village. We also have planning underway for a significant renovation to our police department, our headquarters, and our court facilities and city hall as well. And the dog there is Blitz. That's our canine member of the Prairie Village Police Department. Parks, I mentioned national award-winning Meadowbrook Park. We're very proud of that. That was a public-private partnership between the city of Prairie Village, Johnson County Parks and Rec, and Van Trust, the developer, by which the former golf course on that property was developed. About a third of it is a little bit of commercial, including Prairie Village's one and only hotel. Meadowbrook Inn is there, and then some apartments, some single family, some townhomes, and about 2/3 of it is a public park. We were able to do that through a unique tax increment financing mechanism by which the current residents of Prairie Village don't pay a dime for that. It's all the tax increments that's paying for that beautiful park, which has actually become a tremendous regional amenity with over 1 million visitors a year. We have a new all-inclusive playground at Harmon Park that we opened last fall, making investments across the city. Windsor Park has new courts and restrooms. Tolliver Park has some new play elements, and we have a lot of improvements planned for our other parks in Prairie Village. Roads and infrastructure, you know, the really exciting stuff. But if you don't get this right, I'm sure my fellow neighbors know nothing else much matters, right? We've made substantial increased investment and seeing objective measures of the quality of our roads going up steadily over the years. We're very proud of that. We undertook a major flood mitigation project on Mission Road right near the Prairie Village shops there that we finished just in time for one of the record torrential downpours last year, and it performed beautifully. Schools and shops. As my fellow mayors know, and you all know, when you're selling homes, I'm sure, what did the school district look like? We're very fortunate to have one of the best in the country with the Shawnee Mission School District, Shawnee Mission East in Prairie Village. Proud of our partnership with them, as we are with, we have a lot of shops in Prairie Village. Most of the major ones, Corinth Square and Prairie Village shops, are owned by First Washington, the same landlord. They're putting tens of millions of dollars into redevelopment of those properties. For example, the former Macy's building that some of you are probably familiar with is undergoing a substantial renovation. They've scraped off the top floor of that. The bottom floor is going to be a state-of-the-art grocery store, hen house, and then the top floor, we're going to have some really exciting new retail in there opening next year. We're really proud of our award-winning festivals. You know, in Prairie Village, we like to party, and we have some really good ones. The one that's coming up September 6th is Jazz Fest. It's become one of the best regional jazz festivals in the area. Village Fest for 4th of July, Juneteenth, Arbor Day celebration. We've started some diversity forums. We have the Prairie Village Art Show, and holiday tree lighting every year are among the great events we have in Prairie Village. Very proud of our strong tradition of fiscal responsibility. We just this year affirmed through independent rating agency Moody's our AAA credit rating, which is the highest possible that can be achieved by any city. We've had that for many years. Also this year, to address to some extent the housing affordability, we're reducing our property tax mill rate in Prairie Village by 1/4 mil, and that's on the heels of a full mill reduction a couple years ago that we've maintained since then. Our sales tax rate is among the lower in Johnson County, and that reduced property tax rate is now well below the average of Johnson County cities for property tax rates. In addition to that, to address housing affordability for our more vulnerable citizens, and a lot of people regard Prairie Village as an affluent community, and it is. I mean, we have a few $2 million homes and a few many times over that, but we also have always had a lot of workforce housing in Prairie Village, and you know, the teachers, the nurses, the cops have always been able to afford to live in Prairie Village. Well, we're losing that rapidly just because of the tear down rebuild trend and accelerating spike in home values there, which is great for current homeowners, but it's not very conducive to allowing workforce folks to continue to live and buy in Prairie Village. So we are trying to address that. You know, obviously we've run into some political resistance on that. We've gotten a few small things done, but it's going to be a recurring problem, and we're continuing to work on it. One of the things we did do is we eliminated city property tax entirely for our most vulnerable citizens by income, and then you have to have a appraised value below a certain level. But they now have a 0 property tax rate at that level. And kept our average cost of city services at about $3 a day overall. You know, we are the same age, Mayor Rose, our cities, that is, and maybe we are too. I don't know. I want to, but I just heard you had your 75th anniversary next year. Ours is next year as well. We're 74 years old, and we'll be celebrating. We have a lot of events planned. Speaking of drones, we're going to do a drone show and a lot of other fun things, parade for the kids. Looking forward to that coming up. You know, I was just thinking about that. Yeah. Link arms across the state line and yep. So, and I mentioned the City Hall Police Complex we're working on as well, and a lot of other great things coming up in Prairie Village. Thank you.
So my name is Carolyn Caiharr. I am the mayor of Edwardsville, Kansas. I've been finishing up my first term, getting ready to start my second term. I have been in real estate for a couple decades now, and have loved, I love both of those roles in my life. But I'm here to talk about my city. And so I'll tell you a little bit about that first. Edwardsville, Kansas, a lot of people will ask me, well, where is Edwardsville? I get it often, and it's right between Shawnee and the Legends area, Kansas Speedway. So if you cross the river, we're just on the other side of the river from Shawnee. And then if you keep going, you'll hit Kansas Speedway and Hollywood Casino, the Legends, that area. Edwardsville is a fantastic place to invest. We have a wonderful and robust industrial park. A lot of people don't realize that this is in Edwardsville. It's just once you cross the river. We have Fastenal, distribution, FedEx. There's a lot of facilities right here in our industrial park. There's room to invest in that area if you have commercial developers wanting to move in. This is a great asset to our community as it is a large supplement of our property tax. And so it helps keep the property tax down for our residents in our community. If you're wanting to invest in more of a retail area, we are, as I mentioned earlier, right across the street, right across I-70, actually, from Kansas Speedway, right across from where the new Buc-ee's is coming in, Hollywood Casino, Sporting Kansas City, right down the road from Wyandotte County Lake, Wyandotte County Parks, just the other direction. There's a lot of traffic coming through town right at 435 and I-70. So one of the prime commercial development locations in the Kansas City metro area is right here at 110th and I-70, and that's Edwardsville as well. It'd be a great opportunity for restaurants, hotels, retail shops. Edwardsville is a wonderful place to call home. This has been one thing I love to do is sell homes in my city because I am a big fan of Edwardsville. We have a lot of opportunities for homes. Our city is 9 square miles, so there's not a lot of spreading out, but we do offer rural areas where you can have a land either built or buy a home on acreage or large lots, as well as subdivisions in Edwardsville. And that just shows a little bit of the diverse housing opportunities. We have a couple of smaller apartments, some senior living rental properties, but then we're really trying to encourage owner-occupied properties in Edwardsville so people can move into our community and build equity and have their part of the American dream. Edwardsville is a great place to be a part of the community. One reason people move to Edwardsville is because they love that small town feel. They don't want to be like in the industrial areas or a big metropolitan city. We're still a pretty small town. This is just a few events that we have throughout the year. We have a grocery distribution that I have coordinated and am a part of every other month to give to those in need in and around our communities. Partnership with the school whenever we can. Mayor's Christmas tree lighting. We have coat and hat drives, and then a gingerbread house contest, live music at our autumn events. We're having the inaugural potato festival this year, and where we're in just embracing our rich agricultural heritage. One thing a lot of people don't know about Edwardsville is a man named Junius Groves is inducted just last year into the National Agricultural Hall of Fame. And if you look him up, he's a fantastic, inspiring story. But he is the potato king of the world. And so if you look that up, you'll hear about him. But there's a lot of generational people who have lived in our community. They live there, their grandparents live there, their grandparents live there. And they'll talk about how they worked the fields, and they would, whether it was potatoes or watermelons or different types of agriculture, that they would help in their family farms grow and get some extra money or money just to get by selling those down by K32. We have our Splash Fest or Water Fest event put on by our police department every year, and just kind of building up that part of the community and bringing people together is one thing that we love to do. One initiative we've begun while I was mayor is Love Where You Live. A big question our community is asked is, where are my tax dollars going? They were paying it in, our taxes go up every year, but we don't really see what the results are of our tax dollars. And so it has been really important to bring tangible benefits to our community, whether that's street improvements, sidewalk improvements, park improvements, that people in the community can see, okay, when I'm paying my tax bill every year, how is this benefiting me in my day-to-day life? One thing that I was really proud of is getting grant funding for a sidewalk that we didn't have before. So most of the kids in our community can walk to school. Our roads in Edwardsville are more rural, so they're narrow and hilly. And so it was really dangerous that we'd have kids walking to school. I had a mom tell me she was watching one of the neighborhood girls get her scooter and ride down the middle of the hill, and it is just a dangerous situation. And so now we have sidewalks connecting and what some of the larger neighborhoods in our community so the kids can walk to school safely. We're getting ready to start an expansion of that sidewalk project to connect a couple of more neighborhoods to that trail. We have pickleball courts coming in this fall, and that's something that our community is really excited about, just an opportunity to get out, some recreation opportunities, healthy living. And but that was a big part of our initiative is showing where your tax dollar is going, how is this benefiting our community? Because a lot of things that we have to invest in aren't necessarily fun, the streets and the and sidewalks you don't know unless they're damaged. And so it really does matter to people to have a safe place to live. My last slide is great things are coming in Edwardsville. So one thing that I'm really excited about is our new municipal complex. This is going to have a fire station renovation and expansion. And then in the separate building, we'll have the complex that'll house our new police department, our city hall, our municipal court. And then the first time in Edwardsville history, we're going to have our own public library. And so that's one thing that has been a passion of mine, is to bring that resource to our community. During COVID, we saw that many of the students in our community did not have resources to log in and get to class. They might have had the device at home. They didn't have internet service that would support it. And in fact, if you have 3 or 4 kids trying to get online and stream at one time, it's near impossible for many in our community. We don't have a walkability to any other resource like that. This public library will be within walking distance of those most in need in our community, as well as right by our senior living apartments. And so those folks will be able to walk right over and take advantage of resources that are going to be right across the street from them. The complex will also have a walking path around the perimeter of it, and that path's going to connect the city hall down to our city park, and a little splash pad for the kids to have a way to cool off in the summer. For a 9 square mile community of about 4,600, this has been a long time coming. And so we're really excited about this coming up. It'll be groundbreaking for the fire department. It's going to be here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be breaking ground for the municipal complex this winter. A lot of construction going on over 2026, and then we'll be opening doors to the city hall and public library spring of 2027. Thank you guys for having me today.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, mayors, so much for joining us. I feel like there was some things that you all agree on about your community. So hopefully you have a chance to put your heads together and do great things for the rest of us. And hopefully you all have a chance to put your heads together and share everything you've learned today with your community and help us all be better. Do we have some questions? Catherine is here and she's going to grab a mic, and we might have stuff on Zoom if anybody has a question. All right, so we got one right here.
What would you like to see us do for your communities?
Well, for Edwardsville, I think just being aware that we're here. We kind of get squished between a couple of bigger metropolitan cities. And so I would just say, just making your clients aware that, hey, Edwardsville is a great place to live. There's a lot of great things coming, and just build that excitement throughout the region, really. I think that being informed of what's going on in the communities is something that as a realtor you can offer your clients as well, and knowing, hey, this is, you know, I think we've all talked about projects coming up in our communities. That might be something that your clients would really want to be a part of, or volunteer for, or live near. And so just being informed in that way, I think, is also a great opportunity to bring a benefit to your clients.
Hi, my name's Susan Nealon, and my question is for the Mayor of Independence. I think that's great what you're doing. I'm with a nonprofit called Build a Bridge Ministries. I'm also a realtor, but I was very happy to hear about the ARC program you have. There's so many times I run into people that it looked like a bridge filled with trash one day, and I realized it was people that were living on the bridge, you know, elbows and heads popped out of this living landfill. And when I drive my daughter down to 40 Highway to go to school, I think some of this is on the Kansas City side. And I know there's a clear delineation between the Kansas City side and the Independence side, because the people that really need help are like laying in the street. I'm about to run over them. And my daughter pointed out they only do this in Kansas City. And I'm all for them, you know, having a right to sleep if they have nowhere else to sleep. But I know it's addiction. I've lived in Independence my whole life, and I know it's addiction. So I love the ARC program, but if I call them about somebody laying in the road, will they go to the Kansas City area too?
No, we have an agreement between us and Kansas City. So if there's somebody who's right on 40 Highway, that's where the biggest challenge is along the 40 Highway corridor.
Right.
If they're on the 40 Highway corridor and you call, it's the ARCH program, kind of like the St. Louis Arch. So they'll work with folks either way. You know, the challenge is, as realtors, you know, affordable housing in our society is not there. And it's you know, if I can go into this historically, it's because of public policy on the federal level for a long time, making single family housing such a high priority and giving benefits for that from tax purposes and all of that. And for an aversion to multi-unit family properties. And also the challenge too is just, and I know as mayors, you see this, right? If someone comes in and they want to build an apartment complex in an area, boy, howdy, right? I mean, it's a discussion. And as a mayor, I'm in favor of that. And the reason I am is because the challenge is we don't have space for all $300,000, $400,000 homes anymore. The challenge also is the affordability for our police officers, our teachers, and folks like that. They can't do that. So we have got to have that arch for them to live in too. And I recognize that these are two different questions, but they all blend together. I mean, it's a giant hairball of our society with regards to how do we address these issues. And it pains me immensely that I don't have a magic wand to fix that. And the homeless issue and the houseless issue is incredibly challenging. And many times it is, in fact, abuse related. But to answer your question, make it simpler, not to have me go in a diatribe of the societal needs of what we need in our society as policy on a whole issue. I would say this, though, if I ran for president, I would have a war on housing. How do we as a society, because we did it after World War II, we built housing for all of the veterans that came back from the war so they could have a place to live. We've done this before and we could do this again. And I'm not running for president. But it is, and I truly believe if somebody wanted to run for president, that is a very compelling argument because we all know what a damaging issue it is. And the fear I have is with AI and what impact it's going to make on jobs in the future, what's that's going to do. So anyway, I hope that answers, but you can call, and we do have a mutual aid agreement, and so we can do that. And so I hope that answers your question. And I please forgive me, mayors, that I took too much time to address that issue. So I will pass the baton to all of the other mayors.
Great. We have a question in the back. And then before we get to her question, those on Zoom, feel free to put your question in the chat box. We'd be happy to ask it on your behalf, or you'll have an opportunity in a moment to unmute yourself.
First, thank you all for your presentations. Very impressive. I can't imagine being in your shoes. Mayor of Edwardsville, what is your municipal complex going to cost? And did your citizens get to vote on that?
Make sure I'm on again. Yes, I can give you all of that information. So there were a couple of options of home ruling out and just going to bond and making it happen. But instead we chose to make a project that our community would be supportive of and would want in their hometown. And so we did go to vote on this. It's an $18 million project, $2 million down, so $16 million bonded for the entire complex, for the fire department, police department, city hall, municipal court, and the library. And that we're paying for instead of increasing property tax, we did a sales tax initiative. And so we did a 2-cent sales tax initiative that passed by flying colors with our residents. They were so excited to get this done. And so we're going to be able to build all of this into our city without increasing the property tax.
Can I just say that's an incredible accomplishment because as mayors, to accomplish that is really hard. So well done. Well done. From on this side, that is an incredible accomplishment. Done.
My name is Mason, and I live in Overland Park, close to Mission, close to the Privilege. And I appreciate each one of you has such a public servant desire and have done such a wonderful job as you presented, special for the Riverside mayor. That's phenomenal for last 20 years. And I appreciate it. Each one of you have done such beautiful projects for the people of your city. And my question to the privileged mayor is, what happened to the 79th and the Mission YMCA? I belong to that, and all of a sudden, shut down.
I agree as well.
For part of the program.
Yeah, no, this is good. Speaking of going to resident vote, I and several members of the council, for years, we worked on a plan to partner with the Y to rebuild that. That property had become quite dilapidated and aged, and it needed to be replaced. So we developed a plan that we were hoping to take to the voters to redevelop that, for the city to own it, the Y to manage it, and submit that to the voters. But there was an organized opposition group in Prairie Village that didn't want that to go to a vote of the people of Prairie Village, and they convinced enough council members to halt that process. I personally think that was an opportunity lost for Prairie Village. We did a couple of statistically valid surveys that showed deep, broad support across Prairie Village for that project, including asking the tough question, you want these amenities, are you willing to pay for them? And most Prairie Villagers said yes in that survey. But it's closed now, and a developer bought it, that land. What's clear is the building will come down. It will no longer be a YMCA. The Y is out. What comes next is to be determined. We're in discussions with the developer about that, and stay tuned for an announcement soon about what that's going to be next. I was too.
So I already probably have Mayor Rowland's answer, but I'll open it up to the other three mayors. So there's always a big discussion of affordable versus attainable housing units. If you each were all armed with a silver bullet, what would be the one item that you would truly try to go after? Doesn't have to be in your community. Could be as a whole, as Mayor Rowland had indicated. What would be that one thing that you each think could make the biggest impact to affordable housing or attainable housing?
Start with Mayor.
Well, I really feel like I'm on that to a certain degree in Riverside because, again, being from a hardworking blue collar community, I have a lot of housing that is low price points, but I also have a lot of apartment complexes, very well maintained, but are much older. I mean, you can get a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside for $800 a month. I mean, so we do have affordable housing. I also have been in negotiations with a developer that wants to do low income but marketplace units where like it's a 60-40 split, where you have 40% that are market rate units and 60% low income. So you're having people live together, that there is definitely a synergy for people to be able to say, hey, I'm not going to live badly in my unit if this person takes care of their unit. So I think that could be a really good concept as well. Missouri has that program to be able to do that at the state level. So I think that would be really good. Riverside also, we're a little bit unique. We don't have taxes. You pay county, but you do not pay city taxes. We pay our city as one of our benefits. We pay 3/4 of your gym membership to the YMCA. So we subsidize it 3/4.
You got it.
I have been all over these issues trying to address the low income people that I have in my community, because you know what? You have got to have that diversity to make things really good in your community. People need to have that. And I just think that it's really wonderful that I've got Park Hill school districts. We got big diverse. I've got 17 languages. I mean, we got a lot going on in that little community. So
yeah, I think each community has its own version of this, and it's very unique. In Prairie Village, we're landlocked with exceptionally high land values, and there's nowhere to expand. We have had, and we have been, all cities have seen this, but you look at a heat map, we are ground zero for the tear down rebuild trend, where the $300,000 homes, and we have several thousand of those. Like I said, we've always had workforce housing in Prairie Village, but we're losing it very rapidly. With all respect and admiration for our neighbor Mission Hills, we're on a trend to become, more of a Mission Hills community with watching those types of homes disappear. So we proposed some potential things for what we could do in Prairie Village, and we implemented some of those. We gave commercial zones by right to add mixed-use residential to their developments. As I mentioned, we also reduced property taxes for the lowest income earners. We eliminated city property taxes. We talked about doing some things in the R1, which is about 90%, the single-family homes, but again, ran into some very vocal opposition from even talking about this issue. They tried to shut it down, and they successfully did for the time being. But again, this issue is exacerbated every year. You know, I don't need to tell you, home values, especially in Prairie Village, perhaps in these other cities as well, are outpacing wages dramatically every year. So at some point, this implodes on a city. You can't hire the cops. We're already seeing this in recruiting challenges. You can't hire the teachers. You can't hire the nurses. And that affects your quality of life at some point. So this is going to happen. You know, it's a question of when or where, when we start looking at alternatives to, as the mayor of Independence mentioned, you know, just the traditional approach to this. In the meantime, we're doing what we can. Thanks.
So we're going to go to the back. Jennifer has a question, and then we'll go to Zoom.
Want to talk about that one issue? She didn't get the house.
I'll make it quick.
A lot of you probably, if you can't hear me, let me know.
Closer.
Closer. A lot of you probably are similar to me in this in wanting people to be able to own property. That's one big part of our American heritage, is being able to own property in the United States. And so while I really do see a need for the affordability of it, I can see some initiatives even in Wyandotte County where they're building homes that are more affordable for people to be able to purchase. And that way they're not stuck with a landlord raising their rent month after month, where they really have no control of that. One thing I've tried to work on, and I'd love to talk with some of the mayors up here about how they were able to eliminate city property tax. But one thing that I've seen at a municipal level is it's really difficult when the property taxes are going up year after year that are hooked to those appraisals. One thing I'd love to see, which isn't in city control, is the property tax not necessarily being hooked to an appraised value, since that's so volatile, but that affects your monthly payment. And then when the appraisal goes up, then your taxes go up, even though there's no more money in your bank account just because a number on a piece of paper went up. It helps you when you go to sell, but not when you're paying the bill year after year. And so what I would like to see more of in my community is owner occupied homes that are owned but built affordably, so people could purchase a property and start building equity for themselves.
And Mayor Carolyn, my question is for you. You ran a very successful campaign, it sounds like, for your building. How did you get everyone on board with expanding government and public safety? Because those taxes are traditionally very hard to pass. Safety, you know, polls is a #1 issue that citizens have. But when you put it to a vote, public safety taxes frequently fail. So how did you run a successful campaign? How much did it cost? What was your best tactic there?
Thank you. We had a lot of conversations throughout the community. So we would hold community forums, answer questions. A lot of uncertainty comes when people kind of are left to make up the blanks, fill in the blanks on their own. And so we had a lot of interaction with our community. I was on social media just putting out information. But when you look at our existing facilities, and I didn't include pictures of those for a reason, because they're pretty rough. Our current city hall is in a repurposed strip mall. Our fire department is in a building that was built for a volunteer fire department, not a full-time fire department. And so when they're driving by our community every day, they'll know we need to do better. We want to build a community that people want to live in, that they want to invest in. And then when we get some of those retail businesses, that'll help supplement our property tax to help in those ways. We are really blessed in our community that they are very supportive of our first responders. And so they want to take care of them and make sure where they're spending a third of their life really is a good quality and safe and healthy environment. But a big piece of that win came from us showing that we're going to keep this overall price tag as low as possible. I know $18 million sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're comparing it to other school bonds or different bonds that were out there, it seemed pretty affordable comparatively, but then also passing it through a sales tax instead of the property tax, I think helps people be able to feel comfortable that this is something that you're going to choose and choosing whether to purchase or not and be a part of. The last piece of it that made it a win was the public facing piece. So in our community complex, the walking path, the splash pad, the public library, and the community rooms that we're including in this, they could see a benefit to them personally as well.
From Zoom?
Yeah, so Jolene is on Zoom, and Jolene, are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question to the group? Okay, I'll go ahead and ask on her behalf, but if she can unmute and wants to add anything to it. Jolene's asking, there are multiple empty lots across Independence and KC. Why not put some of our tax dollars towards building small homes on some of these spaces? I just sent an email to Independence Planning and Zoning requesting just this. Cedar Springs is doing this. Why can't KC Independence?
It's the, you're going to answer that. Is that correct? We are allowing that in some of the spaces, and actually Community Service League is partnering, and we are allowing that in some of the areas, because one of the areas we have opportunities for is the land trust. So we do have some developers who are saying, how do we do this to build more affordable houses in a much more effective and efficient way? So there are some plans on that. And if she would like to meet with me or have a phone call, or I can give you my cell phone number later, not on the old entire line here, but I'll give you my cell phone number, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. And there are some really interesting ideas on how that's done. It's one of those things where in order to do it on a grand scale, you need a grand amount of money. And it's not something that the developers who are doing it, they're doing it really almost out of the kindness of their heart, rather than a way to make a lot of money. Because where the sweet spot is with developers and making money in housing are those $300,000 and $400,000 homes, not in a home that's $125,000, $150,000. You just don't have the money in there. So I've seen them do it. I've seen the paperwork they've done it. I've seen the math on it. It's hard to do. Independence is probably one of the most affordable places to live in of these four cities that are here, but that also lends us to we have lower property values, all of that, but it lends us to having opportunity to have those kinds of things. So I love that idea, and I would love to see more of it. It's the challenge of, do we find people to do it? And then the city doesn't have the money to invest in it to do it from our perspective. But I love the idea. I love the question, and I agree with her ideas and her sentiments.
Was there another question online?
It was both hers, so we'll go to.
I have a question for you. Have any of you thought about maybe getting with somebody and developing a tiny home community? That would be some affordable living. No, I mean,
Full of tiny homes?
800,000 square feet.
no, that's not what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
No, because I know there is a tiny home development that's right off of 152 and Platte Purchase. You guys seen that?
I'm very familiar with it. My husband cited it.
So, I mean, I do see this up and coming, and I have been in other areas where I have seen them developing these for more affordable housing for people, because you're correct. I mean, I started my career over 20 years ago, so I have seen the change in the pricing. And do I ever see it coming down? Not really. So you have people out there that are renting, but as you know, rents are going up because and I work with a lot of investors, I do. So we want to go out, they want to buy the house, they want to burr them, and then they want to hike their rents. Well, it's getting to the point where people can't even afford rents anymore. And they can't. So, and that's causing a homeless community, which it is. People living out of their cars, living out of hotels. So this is another idea that I've thought about, is finding cities that would allow a developer to come in, show you their plans, and maybe start that type of work.
Somebody asked, I think the first question was, what can we do to help you? What I'm hearing in these questions is that this is a high priority for, and that's not a surprise, but for you. Advocacy, that's a huge part of it. Education, that this is not going to diminish the quality of a community. This can enhance it if you look at solutions like that. Tiny homes, I know they're putting to work in southern Johnson County where land is a lot less expensive. As Mayor Rowland pointed out, you have a serious economic viability question. Somebody has to subsidize it. If you do it in a place where land values are high, there's a lot of work being done in the metro right now. Some of you probably more familiar with me, like for a land trust to help fill some of those gaps. But what you all can do, I assume you have clients looking for these homes, is we need you to educate the public generally on the need for this and open minds to, this is not going to bring crime. This is not going to bring, congestion. These are going to be the people serving you coffee in the shops. These are going to be the people taking care of you at the hospital. These are going to be the people teaching your kids. This can improve a community. And there's a lot of NIMBYism out there to these types of ideas. That's a fine idea, but don't put it anywhere near me. I don't want that element. So that's where you all can help on the advocacy and education piece.
Also, just a comment on yours, Eric. I think we also have to, we talk about tiny homes, and tiny homes are the little bitty homes that are on trailers and things like that. We also have this tiny home movement where these are places like or companies like Roush Coleman and D.R. Horton. They're building 1,250, 1,300 square foot homes, and they're getting tagged as tiny homes. They're not tiny homes. They're the kind of houses that we all started off in as our first home. They're not tiny homes. They're just smaller than what everybody else, the McMansions, they're building. Eric, you have a specific problem in your community. Everybody wants affordable housing, but as you said, nobody wants to live next to it. But in your community, you have people tearing down smaller homes, building McMansions, and nobody wants to live next to them. You have the reverse problem, which isn't a problem, but
it is a problem. I wouldn't agree with the last part. Everybody wants to live next to them. I mean, our real estate is, is even next to those, but we do get a lot of complaints, right? The neighbor who's been there a long time, the house is too big. A couple years ago, we shrunk the standards. You can't build as big a house on a small lot in Prairie Village as you could 5 years ago. And we're talking about looking at that again. Some little tweaks there, but you're absolutely right. Both ends of that are an issue.
Okay, so Mayor Rowland, this is a delicate question, I guess.
I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you. We'll
You.
talk to you afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right about independence being very affordable, relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the area. The problem I run into as a real estate agent is my buyers, when they hear independence, they don't want to move there. They just don't. So you have a bit of a perception problem, real or imagined, whether it's crime, whatever. How do you overcome that? Because I would love to be able to sell homes. I have many clients that if they would consider independence, I could sell homes there. How do you overcome it?
Right. I mean, that's the challenge. We've got an entire inventory basically, towards the Kansas City side of homes that were built, 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, who are, how many square feet? 1,400 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom homes, things like that. And that makes us affordable. And so those, there's lots of people who are laborers who work there. Okay. And then we've got, as you move more eastward, you've got some, houses that do compete with many of my colleagues here who have those homes that go to the $300, $400, $600, $700,000 range. And we've got communities like that. So it's a very, very challenging question. So going back to the question you had, can we build and addressing and piggybacking on your question, you want to talk about a political fight. You talk about putting small homes areas. We did it here in Paul's, been in Independence. Dan, you're a realtor there in the Inglewood Arts District, because we wanted the Inglewood Arts area to have, for artists, to have a place to live that was affordable. So they instituted the Inglewood Arts Overlay. And what that was designed to do was not to build individual mini homes or little homes, but kind of a grandmother's cottage in the back of the house. Okay, so you could do that, and you would overlay it. You want to talk about, boy, howdy. You had, so trying to address the question on the side of, building more affordable housing and smaller homes, and just putting, a house on the back of the house that's 800 square feet, and for a grandmom's house. Heck, I'm getting to the age where I'd love that. So, you get too much money, you get too many problems. I'd love to kind of downsize in that regard. But anyway, that's a whole different question. Please, I hope my wife is not watching. But those are the challenges you have. The NIMBY issue, the challenges like that. When you bring this up, it can be a really heated issue. And if Dan can tell us, and it was hot.
We had 5 hours of testimony against him.
Right, at the Planning Commission. 5 hours of testimony to the Planning Commission, and I got all kinds of phone calls.
But how do you change the perception of your community?
Just a little bit at a time.
You do that.
Right. Yeah, you just continue to be positive as an elected leader. What was your perception of my 10 minutes on the PowerPoint? That's how you do it.
So
Okay.
thank you guys so very much. I so appreciate you coming today. I want you to come to our next meeting. It is September 4th in Independence at a $3.4 million real estate. I want you to join, and I want you to buy a t-shirt on the way out. Thank you so much. Have a great day.